Good afternoon. Today we're going to start working on fractions, and the first thing we're going to do in working with fractions is create a fraction train. So remember that when you're dealing with fractions, you're dealing with parts and you're dealing with wholes. And you can look at my board here, and looking at this first shape, this is a whole shape, like that. And then within the shape I have parts. Remember that the fraction says how many parts there are. So in this case I have 4 parts. So what we're going to do today is we're going to build a fraction train. I'm going to show you guys a couple different things we can do with fraction trains. So the first thing we can do is obviously we have a whole, which would be labeled as 1. But then we can take that 1 and we can label it into a fraction train. So when we do a fraction train, we just simply say what the fractions inside are. So in this case, my fraction train is divided into 4 pieces. So each piece is 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. If I add up all my pieces, my sum is 4/4. Okay? So that's 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, or 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 1 whole, 4/4. Okay? Let me try it again on this one. So if you look at it, the whole shape is 1, or we can call it a whole, and then we're going to count the pieces. So I have 1 whole, 2 wholes, or 1 part, 2 parts, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. So if I have 6 parts, each one of these is 1/6, and that's going to equal 6/6. Pretty easy stuff, right? So now I'm going to show you on the last one something where we're going to talk about how we can share parts of a whole. So again, here's my whole. Okay, so as I look at my whole this time, I'm going to add up the fractions. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. And then within my parts then, what I'm going to do this time is I'm actually going to think of a way that I can split these. So like a real world application of this would be something like sharing a piece of a cake, or sharing a piece of a candy bar, or splitting something up. You can think of dozens of examples. So I'm going to take it, and this time I'm going to say this. I'm going to say on this I have 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. But I'm going to put those 3 1/8s together. So I have 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. That's 3/8. And I'm going to make this part of my whole. I am then going to take the other 1/8s and make them a separate part of the whole. Okay? So that's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. Okay? And this is called sharing a train, or sharing part of a whole. And this is how we're eventually going to get into adding fractions this quarter. So if I take them and I split my fraction train, you'll notice I still have 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, 8/8. I can still label it 8/8 or 1 whole, but I've broken them into parts. So I can also say, besides 1/8 plus 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 1/8 equals 8/8, I can also say 3/8 plus 5/8 equals 8/8. And now I've built 2 different problems. I have this problem with all the 8s, and then I have another problem where the 8s are grouped together. So right now, if you understand what you're doing, you're going to grab a sentence strip from the table. You may look at my model, which is hanging up above the computers on this side of the room, and you may create your own fraction train, and on your fraction train you need to come up with a total. But I also want you to do, at some point on your fraction train on the back, I also want you to share your fraction whole.